talk about how we can kind of change our self talk, our negative self talk from negative to positive using the system AFT or Aroma Freedom. And so, if you think about, have you ever created a goal or wanted to start a project or just basically wanted to make a change? And it's like as soon as you say it or write it down or plan on it, your brain goes into like rapid fire. And it's like, no, you can't. What? Are you crazy? You can't do that. You don't have time for that. That's not possible. Like all of those things, right? I call that the inner critic. I didn't invent that. I heard that somewhere and I liked it, and so I use it in my classroom. And for me, the inner critic is usually loud, nonstop, like ongoing, and very sarcastic. Right? Like, yeah, right. Good luck. And then sometimes we notice those inner thoughts and our inner critic. Sometimes we don't. And when we don't, a lot of times what happens instead is we tend to just procrastinate or avoid, or sometimes it looks like perfectionism where we start and we just can't actually finish because it's not good enough, right? That's self talk, our inner critic, it's not good enough. And so, first of all, if that's you, let me know in the chat if you've ever had an experience like this where like you set a goal or want to start a project and then you're like, but I can't actually seem to get to it, or I didn't finish, right? Or I get stuck, or I'm in confusion, and then what happens is we're feeling frustrated and disappointed in ourselves. Maybe um, inadequacy comes up, unworthiness, and our brain files away all of those feelings and this experience. It attaches it to any previous experience we had in relation to this, right? So, like, our brains are kind of like computers. And anytime we set a goal or a project, it's like the search bar where you go to start typing something in, like, how do I? And it like comes up with like 50 different things of what you're trying to say. Our brains kind of work in that way, where it takes all of our previous experiences, emotions, memories, and you're like, okay, I want to set this goal or this project. And it's like, okay, well, in the past, you've done, and it takes all that. And that's where that inner critic comes from, right? You can't do this. Remember what happened last time. You're a failure, you're unworthy, because it's attaching all of those other pieces. And so, in order to kind of break away from that negative self talk, we need to break those little pieces apart so that the predictive text in our brain isn't like trying to fill in the blanks, right? It's like, oh, this is new. Okay, let's go back, right? And so that's kind of how I envision self talk, right? Or the inner critic. And so using AFT works very well. It's very effective in this because it follows almost like how our brains would work, and it kind of changes the code, so to speak, as we go. If I'm using the computer analogy, right? So, say you set a goal and you set the goal, and immediately our inner thoughts start going, right? That won't work. You're not worthy. You've tried this before. Remember that time when you tried this and it didn't work? And remember that time when you tried that and it didn't work, right? No one's going to like support you, all of the things, right? And so with Aroma Freedom, we set the goal, we pay attention, because a lot of times these things go on and we don't even know it, right? It, like I said, it's like the Google search bar where as soon as you start typing, it just goes and you're like, I didn't even like touch anything, right? And through this process, we actually pay attention. Like when I look at this goal or when I read this goal or project out loud, what is my self talk telling me? What is my inner thoughts telling me? And usually in the beginning, it's very negative. Sometimes there's glimmers of positivity. And of course, by the end, usually there's a lot of positive self talk, which is what we want to get to. But usually in the beginning, it's very sarcastic, loud, and no, you can't do this. Right? Because if you thought you could do it and if your self talk said you could do it, you probably would have just done it and you wouldn't be feeling stuck. Right? And so we identify that. And then it goes through the process of breaking all of those little connections, all of those little pieces of code that have attached to this goal or project. We break those apart through our inner thoughts, focusing on what are the feelings that are coming up, focusing on where we feel that in our body, and what memories or past experiences are coming up. Right? So instead of all of those being attached, right, linked together so that your brain's Google's like, here we go, let me finish that sentence for you. We actually are almost like breaking the little links in the code, right? So that we can focus on them one at a time. Then as we do that during the process, then we use essential oils to go into our brains and like calm our limbic system, right? Noticing that once we have those broken apart, then we can kind of clear them out and dissolve them with smelling essential oils because they are able to, aroma is able to tap into the instinct part of our brain, our limbic system, because that helped us survive for many, 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 many years, right? It's the same idea of like our body saying, don't eat that food, it smells rotten. It's the same thing, right? And so aromas can heighten our instincts, but it also works the other way where it can calm our limbic system. Right? Because our brain goes, whoa, 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 you're breaking all these links in the code. I don't like that. I'm going to try to fix it. And so we need to also calm the system. And we use that through essential oils, very specific blends of essential oils. Then once we do that, and sometimes that takes a couple rounds because we usually have a lot of memory and we usually have a lot of different programming. And even though you break certain links, your brain is magical and fantastic. And it says, oh, I'm going to work around this. We're going to go this way, right? We're going to take this path. And so a lot of times it takes a couple of rounds of like, okay, what is my inner thought saying? What am I feeling? Where am I feeling in my body? What memories do I have? And breaking those apart using the oils until we get to a place where we can insert or come up with new mindsets, new perspectives, so that when we type in the same thing into our little brain search bar, it's not the same list of predictive text, right? It's not the same type of self-talk, right? It's like, oh, actually, you know what? You can do this. Oh, actually, remember that time it did actually work out? Forgot about that. Okay, let's add that in, right? And so once we get to that point, that's when, and we have that new mindset, then we use that mindset and basically we kind of like re-enter it into our brains by coming up with a positive self-talk statement or a positive affirmation. Next steps, like what do we need to do now? And that usually looks like a couple of different things. One, it's usually either like a positive statement about our self-nurturing, like, you know what? Okay, I can do this. I'm worthy. I can handle this, something like that. Or sometimes when we go through this process, the thinking part of our brain, the logical part of our brain's like, your next step is this. Just do this. And you're like, oh, okay. So sometimes our positive self-talk statement revolves around an action. So sometimes it's self-nurturing, sometimes it revolves around an action. And that is what we take and we use in, of course, repetition, right? Because that's how things, if you think about the way the internet works, that's how those predictive statements and predictive text make it all the way to that little search bar is people are searching it over and over and over again. So they're like, hey, everyone else is searching this. This must be what you're looking for too. So we're kind of doing that same thing, but in our brains. Right? Hey, oh, is this the statement you're looking for? Oh, is this the statement you're looking for? So even though like during an AFT, we're putting in that code, like this is the statement I want when I think about this goal. This is the statement that I want to pop up. And then we activate that by having that repetition, right? At certain times of the day. It's like, remember, this is the code I entered. Remember, this is the code I entered. Remember, this is the code I entered, until it gets to our point where our brain's like, you start typing it and your brain goes, oh, this is the code you entered. Right. And so I'm just checking my notes here because I think I covered it. So that's how one of the strategies, right, that I use in changing like that negative self-talk, that inner critic, into the inner coach or the positive self-talk, especially when it comes around a goal or a project or something that I want to change, because our previous programming is very, very strong, right? The path is very well taken. We've repeated that same predictive text over and over and over again, that it does sometimes, it takes repetition, right? But a lot of times we can't make that repetition unless we actually are able to know what it is that created the negative critic and the self-talk, right? Those emotions and those memories and all that. So, and we need to be able to break that down so that we can get to that point where when we have the positive statement, it's actually like powerful and convincing, and we feel confident and have the conviction in following through with our goals and our projects. So that's how I use AFT to go from negative self-talk, I can't do it, I'm not worthy, to I got this, right? And that's a strategy you can use too. Now, before I let you go, I've committed to doing one kind of group AFT session a month from now till the end of 2023. If you want to get in there, there's a link in the description. It's called Alpha Abundance. And in addition to the monthly group AFTs, there's also like deep dive trainings in there and a couple other little things. So if you would like to try this out, you can join that. The only thing you need to get into that is to actually order the oils that you need through me, right? And it's an affiliate link, so I do get a commission at no extra cost to you. But that's how you get in. You just need to have your oil products through me. If you're like, I love AFT and I already have my oils, so that doesn't work for me, just shoot me a DM, because I have like other group AFTs that you can hop into if you already have the oils. So just like comment or shoot me a DM or something like that. So that link's in the description. If you're new to seeing me and you're like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to take that step yet, feel free to pop into my free Facebook community. That link's also in the description. And you can kind of feel the waters. I have a shortened version, which is called Aroma Boost, in that group in the guide section. And you can just like watch that to be like, is this the right fit for me? Or do I like Brittany? Is she a right fit for me? Like, do we vibe? You know? All right. Otherwise, I will let you guys go. You have the best day.